How is it going, YouTube? Mo Sports Network back again today. We're doing another one of my NFL Power Ranking videos. Season is in 6 days from now. 18 more videos still to come today. The number 18 team we're talking about, as you can see, is the LA Rams. Because you clicked on the video, you saw it was them. I like the Rams. I like certain things about them. We're going to talk about them, why I think they're still going to be a good team, but why I think they're probably the worst team in the NFC West this year. The NFC West is probably the best division in football. There's a good chance of that, I think. But we're going to start with the coaching staff. Now, Sean McVay has been excellent so far as the Rams head coach. There is a bit of a youth movement among NFL teams, getting guys like a Cliff Kingsbury in Arizona or Zach Taylor in Cincinnati, guys similar to Sean McVay to try and replicate what he did with the Rams to have such success so quickly. My bad, I can't speak English. So Sean McVay, excellent head coach. 9-7 last year, even in a year where it was a grind to get through the season. I feel like for the Rams, when I think about the Rams last year, I think they didn't do well. They still won 9 games. I think Sean McVay will always keep this team competitive, and I think he's part of the reason this team is still so high. Looking at the coordinators, Brandon Staley, first-year defensive coordinator. I don't know how I feel about him. He has to try and live up to replacing Wade Phillips, a defensive legend in LA. So that's obviously a tough task to live up to. So the defense might fall off just a little bit with Staley getting hired here in January as the defensive coordinator, but we don't know yet. Then offensive coordinator is Kevin O'Connell, but offensive coordinator in LA is weird because they have a run game coordinator and a pass game coordinator, and Sean McVay does he does play calling as well. So the offensive duties are really strange here in LA. It's mainly Sean McVay's offense, obviously. So the main coordinator you're looking at is Staley, and he has to replace a legend in Wade Phillips. So that's going to be tough. But still, Sean McVay as a head coach, really good head coach, top 10 head coach in the league. So now we move on to the roster. Starting at quarterback, you have Jared Goff. Jared Goff last year was not very good. He was third in the league in passing yards, but he had 22 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Had several games last season where he didn't throw a touchdown, which was way off from his Super Bowl campaign, where the Rams were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I'm not worried about Jared Goff. Personally, I think he is an average quarterback. I don't think he's going to be some transcendental talent that elevates the Rams to new heights you haven't seen. I don't think Goff is the kind of guy who can do that. I think we've seen pretty much what we can from Goff. The question is, what does Goff have around him, and what can Sean McVay do for Goff to make them really work well? I think Sean is an excellent piece, Goff has an excellent arm, and can work really well with pieces he has around him, but he needs those pieces to play well, I think. And I don't think that's some controversial opinion. Now, he's not like an Andy Dalton type where he needs those pieces and that's the only way he's going to play well. Jared Goff is talented. He has a lot more talent than guys like an Andy Dalton, or I'm trying to think of another quarterback that needs the talent around him. Maybe even like a Garoppolo. I wouldn't go that far. I don't think Garoppolo is completely a system talent. But Goff is talented, don't get me wrong, but he does need those pieces, as we've seen from him so far. You go to the running back room, and I'm not super high on this room, to be honest. Losing Todd Gurley hurts, and I know you have to do that for cap reasons. You can't pay him, and he was hurt a lot. So getting rid of him was probably the wise move for how much he was getting paid. But I am not a big fan of this room otherwise. I haven't heard much about Cam Akers out of camp, but wasn't a giant fan of him coming out of Florida State, to be honest, especially for where he went in the draft. I think this team could have had J.K. Dobbins, who I was higher on than Akers. But Akers is here. Apparently, he's the starting running back. You also have Darrell Henderson, Malcolm Brown, John Kelly. I wouldn't be shocked if all 4 of these guys get carries, and none of them are as good as Gurley. But I'm not going to trash this run game either. There's 4 bodies there who are all capable running backs, who are all okay. This will be a fine running game. I pretty much put the running games in the NFL into two categories. You have the player who can evolve your offense, your McCaffreys of the world, your Saquon Barkley's, your Derrick Henrys. I'd even throw like Joe Mixon and Dalvin Cook in that category. And then you have all the rest of your running games where they are serviceable. And the fact that the Rams don't have money into their running game is good. I just don't think any of them, they're all serviceable backs. They're all good. They're just not going to take this team to new heights. Now, a spot where I am quite high in this team is the receiving group. Now, they don't have that true number one really good wide receiver, obviously. They don't have a top 10 receiver in the game on this team. They do have three really quality guys and a rookie who is supposed to play very well. So you have Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, Josh Reynolds. These three guys have been working with Jared Goff for a long time. They're all been very solid, successful guys in the league so far, and you know what you're going to get from them, and they're all going to play pretty well. I think they're all, maybe Woods is more of a three, but I think Woods and Kupp are both number two, like really quality number two receivers. And then you also get Van Jefferson, who can come in as a rookie, and he's a really interesting piece in my opinion. If he can contribute and be like another number three receiver, kind of as good as Josh Reynolds can be, this is a really deadly four wide receiver tandem that's going to be really hard to stop. They're going to be fresh all the time, rotating onto the field. That group is really solid. And then you're also looking at depth at tight end. A lot of these other receivers, they will play. I just don't know as much about them. And I think a lot of them are going to play more on special teams, barring injury. So moving on to tight end, you're really deep as well. I think you're three deep there. Tyler Higbee, Gerald Everett, both prove that they can be solid, quality tight ends. I think top 15 in the league, at least for Higbee. I think Everett could also be like a top 20 tight end, depending on the workload he gets. Then Bryson Hopkins out of Purdue is a guy I'm also high on. So I think they're super deep at tight end, and they're pretty deep as far as receiver goes. The only issue with this receiving group for them is they don't have some elite guy. They don't have like a Kelsey or a Kittle or an Andrews at tight end, and they don't have like one of your top 5 or 10 wide receivers in the game, but they're deep everywhere. And in any other team, let's say the Niners, for example, if Kittle gets hurt, that team's in trouble. If Higbee gets hurt for the Rams, Everett and Hopkins can step up and be fine. Or say with the I don't want to use the Saints, like the Falcons, for example. I know I said in the last video they'd be fine without Jones to an extent, but let's say a Robert Woods goes down for this team, it doesn't hurt this team nearly as bad as a Julio Jones going down. So I really like the depth of this team overall. So now we go to the offensive line, where it is a bit more concerning. So you have Andrew Whitworth, the old man. He's still really good at left tackle, and he will be this team's best offensive lineman. And then the rest of the team, the line is either replacement level to just bad. Particularly the interior. Rob Havenstein is he's fine. He's like a solid right tackle. I don't think he's anything nuts. I don't think he's horrible either. Then the rest of the line, there is some question marks. So Austin Blythe, Joe Noteboom, and Austin Corbett, I think all have probably more questions than answers. And I really don't love any of them starting, but they kind of have to. One thing I can give this team is they were really bad on the offensive line last year. Hopefully, this group is starting to gel more together a little bit. And I don't think they'll play as bad as they did last year, because they played really bad last year, offensive line wise. But I think this group is just going to be average, especially because I think Whitworth is a great player, and I think Havenstein is fine. So like average to below average for this offensive line. I think McVay can work around it. I don't think the offense is reliant on it, especially how deep they are at receiver. As long as Goff can get the ball out quick, I'm not too concerned. The only thing I think you're gonna see it get real affected is the run game, especially without Gurley. But I think with Cam Akers as your best running back, I don't think this offense this running game is going to be great by any means, anyways. Um, so there's that on the offense. Goff, average quarterback, and then I guess my main thing I'm high on this team is the receivers. Other than that, I'm a little lower on. Then we move over to the defense. So first thing, looking at the defensive line, um, Michael Brockers and Aaron Donald, two pretty. Or I'm gonna shoot myself in the head. I don't know why I was gonna. Brockers is pretty solid. Aaron Donald's the best defensive player in the league. So you have the best defensive player in the league on your defense. Obviously, the defense is going to improve and be pretty good around him. So, really like Aaron Donald there, best defensive player in the league. He will make this defensive line, this pass rush good, even when some pieces are more underwhelming. Nose tackle, you have Sebastian Joseph Day. Wasn't really supposed to play as much as he will. Because Ashawn Robinson opted out, he's forced to play. I'm not too worried about him. I don't think nose tackle is the hardest position in the league to play excellently. Obviously, I could never do it, and I'm not saying it's easy, but there are definitely more challenging positions to replace due to an opt-out. So, again, excellent front three just because of Donald alone. Then you're going to look at some of your edge rushers. Aaron Donald obviously fits into that category. He's going to be great rushing the passer wherever he is. He's a great player. Then you have Samson Ebukam. He's pretty good. I'm thinking 2 years back, but he had 2 touchdowns in a game in that big, great game against the Kansas City Chiefs. So, Ebukam has some good player in him. It's just week to week. Are you going to get it? I think he's still a pretty quality pass rusher. And then you have Leonard Floyd, former Chicago Bear. He's another pretty okay pass rusher. I think when he was drafted, we expected more out of him than what he really is. But I think he's still quality overall. Taking a look at Floyd, only 3 sacks last season, coming over from the Bears to LA. I think he can revitalize his career a little bit. We saw some promise from the Bears. He took a little step back last season. Hopefully, he can continue to do good things with the Rams. Looking at the interior linebackers, you have Micah Kaiser and Kenny Young. I believe Kenny Young's coming over from Baltimore, if I'm not mistaken. This is a weak group. I liked Micah Kaiser coming out of Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. That's where he's from. Yeah, he didn't really play. He hasn't played in a while. That was his 2018 stats displayed there. So I like his potential, but who knows what you're going to get there. And then Kenny Young, again, he played with Baltimore. He wasn't that great either. So kind of a weak group overall at the 2 linebackers there. You have Clay Johnston, Troy Reeder, just some other guys who, again, aren't excellent. I mean, they're behind Kaiser and Young for a reason. I think this is going to be a weak linebacking group. So we talked about the edge rush, the linebackers, the defensive line. Now we're going to talk about the secondary. Now, any secondary with Jalen Ramsey is going to be pretty good. I really like Jalen Ramsey, John Johnson. I think Taylor Rapp's only going to get better. I also like Jordan Fuller as depth. I really like those 3 spots a lot, especially Jalen Ramsey. He's like a top 3 corner in the league when he's on. The only place I'm curious about is Darius Williams. The team loses Aqib Talib, obviously. So the question here comes, can Darius Williams or Troy Hill or Dante Dayon, any of these guys, can they replace that number 2 quality corner for this team? So taking a look at Darius Williams, he did play last season for the Rams. 2 interceptions, 4 passes defended. So not horrible statistics. But again, no one knows Darius Williams to really be just a really top 2 safety on a team, in my opinion. So that's what we have there on the secondary. Jalen Ramsey, really good. I also like Terrell Burgess as well out of Utah. I think the depth here at safety is pretty pleasing. They're at least have Jordan Fuller and Burgess along with Johnson and Rapp. That's a pretty good group there. along with Jalen Ramsey. So the only question there is that second corner spot. So overall, the defense, I think linebackers are weak, and I think their cornerback depth in particular is a little weak. But other than that, pretty quality defense for some of the pieces they were forced to lose, including Wade Phillips. So we go over to the schedule now, and we're gonna go game by game again, and we're just gonna hold your horses here, Rams fans, because I think there's a good chance this team starts 0-3. You have Dallas, Philly, Buffalo, three teams I have in my top 12 teams in the league. Um, I think they could lose all three of those, and I think it gets a lot better from here, from the Rams' 0-3 start. I think they're going to be kicking themselves if they start 0-3. I think this Dallas one's definitely winnable, though. Then you get Washington, New York. I think they're going to win both of those, no problem. That'll make you 2-3. I think they probably lose to San Fran and then win the next two against Chicago and Miami. So they'll be 4-4 according to my metrics going into the bye week. I think coming out of the bye, Sean McVay has a bye week to prepare. I think they can beat Seattle 5-4. But then they got Monday Night Football at Tampa going to Florida. I think there's a chance they lose that one. I think Tampa's going to be really good this year. People kind of debating if they'll be good or not. I think they will. So 5-5. And I think they can split with the Niners as well. I think they're that good. So 6-5. Then they go to the Cardinals. I think they'll split with the Cardinals. So I think they'll lose this one 6-6. Beat New England, beat New York. So 8-6. I think they're going to lose this one to Seattle 8-7, and then I think they can beat the Rams for a 9-7 record again, that's what they went last year. I know probably Rams fans are expecting to do better, but again, with Sean McVay, with I think a reduced roster from what they had last year, they did lose some pretty decent pieces just because of cap issues. I mean, they lost Corey Littleton, who was a really solid linebacker. They lost pieces in their secondary. Brandon Cooks is gone, although they did trade him. So they are weaker at certain positions, but I think they can, with their schedule, because they finished third in the NFC West last year somehow. I think they can stay 9-7 based off of this schedule, and it can be better, it can be worse. Again, I said they can beat Dallas. There's a chance, I think, if they beat Dallas and if they can like sweep in Arizona, for example, or they beat Buffalo or something, this team could be 11-5. I also think the same thing can be said. I think San Fran could probably sweep this team. Seattle could potentially sweep this team. In that case, it makes the team like 7-9. I'd say this team has like between a 7-11 window. I'm going to go for that 9 mark right there. And I don't think that's a controversial statement. As the 18th team in the league, I think 9 wins, like 8 or 9 wins, I think is pretty quality for this team, given what they are. So that is all for me today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next time, where we talk about my number 17 team in my NFL Power Ranking. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.